So please welcome Mr. Caesar Sengupta to deliver his keynote address.
Good morning, GPMTO, esteemed ministers, and distinguished guests. I'm excited to be here this week, speaking at the Smart Nation Innovation Week, and honored to be your keynote speaker. There's something just inherently uplifting about the concept of a smart nation. PM Lee recently made the point that it's no good really having a smart nation if not all citizens can benefit from it. So a smart nation is a really powerful construct in that it consciously sets out to transform the lives of all citizens for the better. And that ties into what I want to talk about today, which is the transformative power of technology. Its ability to change lives, industries, and yes, even nations. But first, let's start with the question, what is technology? You know, Douglas Adams, the author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, wrote that anything invented after you're 35 is against the natural order of things. He's really getting at the heart of what we tend to think of as technology. We think of technology as the new stuff, don't we? Like things like self-driving cars or voice assistants. But technology isn't just the new stuff. It's what we humans create to help ourselves. It's things like language. It's things like clothes. It's things like shelter. It's the things that are so bound up in what it means to be human that we have stopped thinking of it as technology and just think of it as the way things are. And technology has been around from the very start. And throughout human existence, technology has helped us transform our lives, our enterprises, and our future. Now, I see some of you in the first row are thinking, this is Google. Obviously, he wants to tell us tech is good. No surprises there. I confess, I really do want to tell you that technology is good and not benign or neutral or depending on how it's used. It is good. And no surprises there. And I'll illustrate my point with 4 stories today about how technology can uplift an individual, a business, an industry, and yes, even the future. And now most of these stories have something to do with Google. And I'm not suggesting that Google is the only player that is using technology to help transform things. Many others are using technology in fantastic ways. But we're able to speak more authoritatively about our own examples, and hence the Google lens. So do forgive me the Google bias in the talk. So let's start with the first story of how technology can transform individuals' lives. And instead of me telling it, why don't we hear it straight from the person concerned? Let's meet Srinath.
मेरा नाम श्रीनाथ है। मैं केरला में इडुक्की जिला में रहने वाला बंदा हूँ। मैंने घर से 140 किलोमीटर आगे दूर पे अपना कोचिंग रेलवे स्टेशन में काम करने वाला कूली हूँ।
तो मैंने अपना बारे में सोचा तो जो शहर का जो लोग जी रहे जैसे हम भी जीना है, इसी कारण से मैंने पढ़ाई के बारे में सोचा। तो पढ़ाई बाहर करके आके अपना काम करने में बहुत दिक्कत पड़ता था, इसी वजह से मैंने बाहर का पढ़ाई छोड़ दिया। मैंने भी दिल के अंदर सोचा मेरा पढ़ाई तो गया, अभी वापस पढ़ नहीं पाएगा। अपना रेलवे स्टेशन में वाईफाई लगा हुआ था, रेल वाईफाई से मैं अपना केरला पब्लिक सर्विस कमीशन का जो क्वेश्चन पेपर वगैरह निकल के पढ़ना शुरू किया। जो फ्री टाइम मिलता है उस टाइम डाउनलोड कर लेते हैं, काम का टाइम पे अपना कान में लगा करके काम करता था। केरला PSC का एग्जामिनेशन आ गया, विलेज असिस्टेंट का लिखा तो मेरे को 82% मार्क मिल गया, क्योंकि क्या मेरे को भी तो नौकरी पक्का मिल जाएगा। घर जाए तो मेरे घर वालों को पता है जो अपना रेल वाईफाई अपनी ज़िंदगी के साथ बहुत अच्छा दिया है, इसी में बहुत खुशी हूँ।
Isn't that just an amazing story? Sometimes the things that we take for granted can seem so unattainable to others. Sometimes something as basic as an internet connection, which many of us in Singapore have 2 fiber lines into our house of, something that everyone should have a right to, can make such a world of difference. So the first transformative power of technology is the access to economic opportunity. A chance at an education, a chance at a better job, and a chance at a better life. And more people will now have the chance because the internet is becoming cheaper and easier to access for everyone. We try our best to reinforce this through initiatives like our public Wi-Fi program, Google Station. Google Station today covers 400 railway stations in India and is used by over 8 million people every month. And we've now expanded it beyond railway stations into cities and into entire states in India. And we've now started bringing it to other countries too. So Google Station is now available in Indonesia and Mexico, and soon we'll be bringing it to many other countries. But that's just one small Wi-Fi program. Across the world, the biggest and the fastest human migration ever known is happening today. That's a migration from offline to online. In the year 2000, about 360 million people were connected, and all of them had to be anchored to their desktops to get online. Last year, 3.6 billion people, 3.6 billion, almost half the world's population had internet access. And there'll be 5 billion internet users in the next few years. 5 billion, 360 million to 5 billion in a few years. And global connectivity translates to global transformation. Think about it, a camel herder in the Gobi Desert today has better mobile communications than any of us did 30 years back. And if they have an internet connection, they have access to more information than any head of state did 20 years back. Just imagine 5 billion people with the world's information at their fingertips. 5 billion students, 5 billion thinkers, 5 billion entrepreneurs, and yes, 5 billion customers. I have no doubt that there'll be a massive explosion of economic opportunity and innovation around the world driven by the rise in connectivity. And a lot of that innovation comes from the people we at Google call the next billion users. They are people from countries like India, Indonesia, Nigeria, countries around our region who are coming online now, today. And the Next Billion Users initiative is part of our mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful for everyone. And it's a commitment to make sure that our technology works for everyone, regardless of where they live, regardless of what language they speak, and regardless of which devices or network they use. You know, some may think the next billion users are just waiting for the precious gift of the internet connection. Nothing could be further from the truth. Many of them are in the middle class, they live in rapidly growing economies, they have disposable income, and they buy smartphones and data plans. The next billion users don't need our help. They're already helping themselves. In fact, it's quite the opposite. While the internet may transform the lives of the next billion users, they in turn are transforming the internet. And as more and more of the next billion users come online, the average internet user is going to start looking more like the next billion than the first million, most of us here. And the next billion users want the same things from the internet as anyone else: access to information, entertainment, products, and services. But they are very different from the first billion in a few significant ways. The most important is that they're mobile first, and often mobile only. And they don't think of a computer as a terminal with a mouse and a keyboard. So let me do an impromptu quiz here. Raise your hand if you first started using a smartphone before you used a laptop or a desktop. If your first computing device was a smartphone than a laptop or a desktop. Raise your hands. Look around the room. There are practically, well, I see one hand raised at the back, though maybe that person was scratching their head. The next billion users, and in fact, most of the 5 billion who are going to come online now are going to be like that, where they will start using a smartphone, so they're different from all of us. So we have to think about them differently. And so the expectations of computing and the internet are very different as well. They expect their smartphones to be their wallets so that they can do digital payments anywhere. They expect their smartphones to be their shopping portals. They expect their smartphones to be televisions. They expect local content in local languages. And because they didn't grow up typing on keyboards, they expect to interact with their computers much more intuitively. They don't want to learn computers. They want the computers to learn them. So they use voice a lot, for example. And as the world moves into this world of mobile and ubiquitous computing, we believe that products that work well for the next billion users will be products that work well for everyone. We in technology often make the mistake of thinking that technological innovation starts in places like the Silicon Valley and then trickles down to the rest of the world. But that's not true. In fact, the next billion users' expectations and behavior is what is going to drive the future. Our first story of transformation was about how the internet provides economic opportunity for people. Now let's go to the second story, about how technology can transform businesses. At Google, we believe that every business can be an online business, and that any industry can and should be a digital industry. Fishmongering, more traditional business than most, might not quite seem like the right candidate for going digital. But Haisia, a family-run seafood retailer in Singapore, is showing how the concept of a smart nation applies to all industries, old and new, big and small. Let's take a look.
我是洪维恩，我从小帮我父亲卖鱼。1976年，在玉朗鱼市场设立了海参渔业。
Haisia is not just about selling seafood. It is about our interest and pride in our produce and conducting business with integrity. The seafood industry is traditional because it's built on face-to-face relationships. My challenge is to figure out how to expand beyond this mode and reach a wider market. I know that the answer is the internet, but the question is, how do we represent our business and values online? Melvin joined us and we created the marketing department. Both of us knew what we needed to achieve, but we did not know how much it would cost and what resources we need. Google helped us realize we don't need big bucks if we know how to properly utilize digital marketing via the right marketing assets.
We were very excited to go digital. We started by making our website mobile friendly and filming a video for YouTube to enhance our brand awareness.
Apart from the branding, we also wanted to focus on increasing online sales as well as sign-ups for the fishery tour.
Our YouTube video got more than 200,000 views within 1 month. That helped us increase our website traffic by more than 5 times. What was most satisfying was seeing a 20-time increase in people attending the tour.
Personally, as a Singaporean, I want our company to be constantly innovating and improving itself, to become a digital pioneer in the seafood industry.
我希望在未来的变化中，海参能保持对这个行业的热忱和真诚。
I want Haisia to be a recognizable Singaporean brand. I want people to feel happy and excited when they eat seafood from Haisia. That's my dream. And digital is getting me there.
Isn't that just such an inspiring story? So that was the second story of technology's transformative power. Technology giving businesses new ways to grow. At Google, we've been very fortunate to have built 7 products with over 1 billion users each. Because each of these online platforms are open, anyone can use them to easily create and distribute products, services, and content. So any company now can have access to a worldwide audience, and every business can be a global business. But it's not just about digitizing existing businesses. Technology is also creating new kinds of entrepreneurs. This is Pony. She's a YouTube creator and a makeup artist from Korea. Now, as you can probably guess, I am not an expert at makeup, but others who are follow Pony's work very closely. 3 years ago, she uploaded a makeup video on YouTube. The video has 2.5 million views, and her channel today has 4 million subscribers. 4 million subscribers who every time she publishes a video, these people get a notification and get to know about it. That's higher viewership than many TV channels. Her business was basically born as an online platform. It wouldn't even have existed before the internet. Let me tell you about Dwayne Collins. Dwayne Collins is a Kiwi living in Australia, and this is his daughter, Liberty. Liberty was born with a medical condition which requires her to wear a prosthetic eye. But the available ones caused her a lot of pain. Dwayne, who was an oil rig worker, didn't want to see his daughter suffer. So over a year, he learned to make prosthetic eyes by watching YouTube videos and finally created a perfect one for Liberty. Today, Liberty is a happy 3-year-old child, and Dwayne has started his own business creating prosthetic eyes for other children. Throughout history, new entrepreneurs, new businesses, and new industries have been created by new technology. And today we see a lot of these new technologies and new industries here in Asia. There are more smartphones here than in any other region in the world. And the mobile data traffic in Asia Pacific is almost as high as the rest of the world combined. So it's no surprise that Asia is the world's leading market for mobile-first industries like e-commerce, ride-sharing, and apps. 10 years ago, you looked to the Silicon Valley to see how technology drove new businesses. Today, I'm not so sure. I think there's a strong case for saying that you should look for the future in Asia. Let me tell you the third story about how technology can go from beyond transforming lives and businesses to creating new industries. And this one comes from our friends in Indonesia. Anyone who spent time in Indonesia knows that the best food isn't found in the 5-star dining restaurants. It's found in the modest home kitchens and the warungs, the small family-run stalls you'll find in any town or village. And each town has its own specialty, and everyone has a favorite dish. I like ayam geprek. It's a spicy fried chicken that's very popular in Yogyakarta. And if you haven't had it, you don't know what you're missing. It's really awesome. You should try it. And I think you're all familiar with Gojek. Gojek started as a ride-hailing business. But very quickly, they realized that rides didn't just transport people from place to place. It could also transport passions. The passion for cooking, or in my case, the passion for eating. And so Gojek came up with a very interesting product called GoFood that has completely transformed how the food industry operates in Indonesia. It not only digitized the food delivery business, but it has actually allowed a new industry of home cooks to emerge, which has totally transformed the restaurant scene. A restaurant in Yogyakarta today may not be the place you sit down to order food at. It may be a home kitchen, a mobile phone, and a motorcycle driver. And by freeing the home cooks from costly requirements like renting restaurant space and hiring staff, GoFood has enabled them to share their food not just with their family, but to entire cities. And in doing so, to enable them to build new livelihoods for themselves. This is Painan. He's a driver with Gojek and GoFood. And he noticed that a lot of orders were coming through for ayam geprek. And like all sensible husbands, and all intelligent husbands, he believed that his wife's, Ibu Arina's, geprek was the best. And so he started working with her to sell ayam geprek on GoFood. The new income they've earned has from this roaring trade has allowed them to build a new house for themselves. And that's just by focusing on what they love most, good food. Technology and Gojek did the rest. So we've heard how technology can transform lives, businesses, and industries. For the fourth and the final story, I want to look at how technology transforms the future. One of the most amazing things about the tech industry is that just when you think you understand it, everything changes, and new possibilities unfold. There's a major shift every 10 years or so. In the early 80s, the PC revolution made computers a part of people's lives and changed how we work. Roughly a decade later, in the 1990s, the internet transformed how we think about finding information. And in the mid-2000s, smartphones brought all that knowledge into our pockets. Google was fortunate to play a role in the last two shifts, and we are fully focused on the third, the shift to AI, artificial intelligence. AI is radically changing how people interact with computers. Now, computers are adapting to people, then forcing people to adapt to them. And because this shift is happening so seamlessly, people often don't realize that they're using artificial intelligence when they talk to their phones, or search for their photos, or ask for a translation on their phone. And our approach to technology and these big shifts has always been the same. we open our technology to everyone. We open sourced Android for mobile phone makers and developers 10 years back, and that helped power the shift to mobile. 2 years ago, we open sourced TensorFlow, our machine learning framework, to power the shift to artificial intelligence. We believe that AI should be available to everyone, because we've seen that good things happen when everyone is included. We've seen some incredible use cases across industries and nations, but what excites me the most is to see what our young programmers are doing with TensorFlow. Let's take a look.
Mammograms are the cheapest imaging format there is. It's the most accessible to people all around the world. But one of the biggest problems that we see in breast cancer is misdiagnosis. So I decided that that was going to be my project, build a system for early detection of breast cancer tumors that's accessible to everyone and that's more accurate. How was I going to do it? Machine learning. It's not an easy thing to do. Data is not publicly available, and if it is, it's low quality data. It's difficult. I wasn't even sure if I could do it. And I remember just thinking about like, everyone else is building a calendar, like maybe I should do that. But I was like, no, you gotta do this. You need to.
He was talking to me about all the cool stuff he was doing, and I was telling him not to overdo it. He should just be a kid and worry about kid stuff.
The biggest, most extensive resource that I've used is this platform called TensorFlow. I've spent so many hours going really deep into these open source libraries and just figuring out how it works. Eventually, I wrote a whole system that can help radiologists make their decisions. All right, ready? Yeah. I'm by no means a wizard at machine learning. I'm completely self-taught. I'm in high school. I YouTubed and just found my way through it. You don't know about that kid in Brazil that might have a groundbreaking idea, or that kid in Somalia. You don't know that they have these ideas, but if you can open source your tools, you can give them a little bit of hope that they can actually conquer what they're thinking of.
Pretty cool, isn't it? Now just admit it, how many of you, when you were 16, woke up one morning and said, let me do this project to improve breast cancer diagnosis, right? But it isn't just Abdul Qadir. There are many young coders who are doing equally impressive things with TensorFlow. American high schooler Shaza Mehdi built an app that can identify plant diseases just by taking a photo of the plant. Polytechnic student Daniel De Leon created a program to identify blue and fin whale calls, helping scientists track these endangered species. So just imagine, how else will our children use AI to achieve a goal? And the sooner the rest of us reach this fundamental understanding, the sooner we'll all benefit from this latest technological shift. If our kids can use AI to fight cancer and conserve the environment, just imagine what governments can do if they see AI as one tool among many to improve their citizens' life. In Singapore, we have many complex problems, like national issues like aging, increasing healthcare costs. What if we could apply AI to helping those? So for the last 20 minutes, I've shared with you stories of how technology can transform lives, businesses, industries, and even countries, creating roads for economic opportunity, growth, and global solutions. But that's not to say that technology alone is the solution. We need to be able to use it well. We know there are bad actors trying to exploit technology to cause harm. And we know that the digital transformation has the potential to displace those that are unprepared. At Google, we are very serious about our responsibility to protect businesses and people. And we are just as committed to ensuring that our technology serves everyone. But the fact is, we won't always get it right. But our commitment to keeping our platform safe, open, and inclusive is unwavering. And educating people is the key to finding that right balance between using technology and preventing the bad uses. So that when people can make their own decisions on how best to protect and empower themselves, they can realize the full use of technology. And to help this, we've committed over $1 billion in grants and over 1 million volunteer work hours from our employees worldwide to support nonprofits in education, digital skilling, and inclusion. We've already trained over 25 million in digital skills, and we expect that to increase to about 60 million in the next 5 years. Too often, our response to big, daunting shifts in technology is to do nothing, or to resist it until we are reassured that they'll do no harm. But the world doesn't stand still for anyone. If we refuse to engage with technological transformation, others will. In order to create the technology that we want to see tomorrow, we have to be part of the technological transformation today, which is why it's so exciting to see all of you here at the Smart Nation Week. We need to embrace technological progress. And those of you who are in a position to do so need to encourage and enable others as well, whether through government policies or responsible business practices. There is really no other way to secure our future. Can you imagine what the world would be if our ancestors had been afraid and given up on fire or language or the wheel? I know I'm being a bit ridiculous, but just to stretch the point there. And that brings me back to what I said at the start of the speech. The technology is good. And the reaction to technology we don't know how to use well isn't to stop innovating. The right reaction is to work harder and innovate even better. And that's how we'll create a bright, inclusive, and better future for everyone. Thank you.